Minor disclaimer about this set of videos. This was recorded on the PTR, and it's entirely possible that mechanics look or even behave differently when it's released on live servers. Sprocketmonger Lockenstock is a single target focused fight where you're fighting against the environment, or in this case, the conveyor belt in limited room space, as well as traps similar to Paintsmith. The main mechanic of this fight is foot blasters. The boss will deploy 4 traps, 2 for each of the non-moving platforms that surround him. When a player steps on these traps, it deals moderate raid damage and applies a short debuff that dramatically increases the damage taken from these traps. In addition, the player who steps on the trap will have a 2-minute debuff applied to them, which will prevent them from soaking again. You'll want to pre-assign players to soak these traps, as it happens at a cadence where that is ideal. Foot blasters will also detonate when coming in contact with electrified ground from wire transfer or goblin inventions. This has implications where you're able to leave a trap unsoaked to allow it to be detonated by a wire transfer to save you a debuff on somebody from soaking it. Speaking of wire transfer, I didn't explain what that was. The boss will limit the space you have available to you in the room with wire transfer. This will electrify the floor of one area of the room when cast. This has a lot of different set configurations he will cycle throughout the fight. You'll want to have movement speed cooldowns like Stampeding Roar and Wind Rush Totem assigned when this happens. Lockenstock will mark several players with Screw Up. This will cause them to drop a drill at their location every 1.5 seconds for 4.5 seconds. If any player touches a drill, they are stunned and have a nasty bleed applied to them for 6 seconds. Lockenstock also has several inventions that he will use to terrorize the raid. These start out slow at first, but often lead to overlaps with either other inventions or other mechanics in the fight. Blazing Beam will cover the room with small, horizontal beams that you will need to move out of. Rocket Barrage will shoot out comically large rockets that you'll need to dodge, as they deal huge damage if you get hit. Mega Magnetize will pull players towards them, and if you come into contact with the magnet, you will be stunned for 6 seconds. Sonic Baboom is the healer mechanic for this fight and applies a raid-wide dot after a cast. This can become dangerous with the other overlaps in the fight. Pyro Party Pack is the tank mechanic and requires a taunt swap, and the tank affected to move away from the raid as there is drop-off damage taken when the debuff expires. When Lockenstock reaches full energy, he will knock players away with Beta Launch and zip to the other end of the room, and then he will begin channeling Bleeding Edge. This will spawn void zones on the ground you'll need to move out of, and during this time, all non-conveyor belt areas of the room will be electrified. You will need to traverse the conveyor belt, keeping an eye out for traps that may be lying in wait. As a melee DPS, you may need to run along a different conveyor, as the boss will also be positioned near one of the sides of the room while he channels this. After 20 seconds, you will revert back into phase 1, but now one of Lockenstock's inventions will be empowered and he will do 15% more damage with each stack of the buff. These empowered inventions will mostly do the same thing in concept, but more dangerous. Blazing Beam will become Jumbo Void Beam, which is significantly wider. Rocket Barrage will become Void Barrage, and if you get hit by any of the Void Balls, it will deal damage to the whole raid, not just yourself. That about sums up the fight on Heroic. On Mythic, there are a few changes. The main difference is that Lockenstock will periodically cast Polarization Generator, which will split the raid in half in a positive or negative polarity, indicated by red and blue circles. You will want to stack up with players affected by the same polarity as you, as coming into contact with someone with the opposite polarity will apply a nasty dot and knock you both back very far. The trickiest part of Mythic by far is going to be that Foot Blasters now have polarities assigned to them when they spawn. If Foot Blasters are soaked by someone of the opposite color, or they are popped by an invention, it will trigger a raid wiping nuke. However, wire transfer is not considered a goblin invention, and strategies involving electrified ground popping one of the mines may still work. This will most likely be handled by a weak aura, as calling this out during testing seemed pretty difficult to do consistently, as you can't guarantee people that are supposed to soak are going to get the color that you need. The TLDR of this fight is as follows. Have players assigned to pop Foot Blasters, move out of the raid with Screw Up, have movement speed cooldowns assigned for big movements from wire transfer and beta launch. On Mythic, players soaking Foot Blasters need to have the same polarization as the mine they are soaking. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.